The Apple IIc is my favorite Apple product of all time. It's really, it has to do with the simplicity of the machine's design, the reliability of the Apple IIc, the functionality that the IIc had for its time period, and its price point. It was inexpensive, it was compact, it was reliable, and it was simple to use. I mean, it was like computing nirvana, really. What Apple sought to do was create a portable version of their Apple, and it was based on the IIe, and it featured many expansion cards built onto the mainboard that were commonly added to the IIe. So Apple released this machine with 128 kilobytes of RAM, and you know, that is truly enough, and I never sought to expand upon that until one of my YouTube viewers messaged me and said he had a brand new in-box expansion board for the IIc. Now, you cannot upgrade every Apple IIc. Only the later, I believe, ROM 3 versions can be upgraded. The original IIc had no provisions for such, and I think this one has that ability. We're going to find out. I wasn't going to turn it down, so I said, yeah, send it on over. The YouTuber is, I believe his name is Aldo Hernandez. I don't know what his YouTube name is, but thank you very much. I got your care package. I appreciate it. Thanks a million. And I will be sending you shipping funds shortly. But anyway, let's take a look at the accessory kit. So this is how it came. This is the IIc memory expansion card, and somebody paid, I'm sure, a great deal of money for this in 1980 whatever. My IIc, I don't know if it's a ROM 3. I'm going to find out, though. We're going to take a look and see. So this is the instruction guide. Take a look here. Anything we need to know? If the program disk in your starter drive is ProDOS based, the memory expansion card formats itself for ProDOS with the volume name /RAM4. So it creates like a virtual disk. When we did the Apple IIgs RAM expansion, we kind of went over a little bit of this. Basically, on an Apple II, extended memory becomes like a separate scratch space. Plain English. Think of it as like a hard drive in a way. Not really, because it's volatile RAM. So it uses, some software uses the extended memory. I believe most early Apple II software does not have the ability to make use of expanded memory unless it actually requires it. You know, like with a Windows machine or with a Mac, for example. When you add memory, the OS is designed to take advantage of that memory, to take the load off the hard drive, to help reduce the amount of data transferred from memory to the hard disk, or floppy disk in the case of the Apple II. Or in the case of an IBM PC, but only if it's supported. So the Apple II doesn't work that way. It's, the software is created to be used with 64 kilobytes or 128 kilobytes, and it uses only that. It doesn't use anything above unless it's necessary or required. You can start up from the memory expansion card. You can copy application programs onto the memory expansion card and start them up directly from the card. But there are some limitations. Just about any ProDOS application can be copied onto the memory expansion card and started from the card, but you can't start up DOS 3.3 programs, that's ProDOS, from the memory expansion card. Loading Pascal-based programs on the card requires the Apple II Pascal 1.3 system disk. This is really complicated. Not like what we're used to today. It was a different world. It appears that there is a built-in diagnostic utility on the memory expansion board, and we're going to take a look at that if we can install it. Now, there is a way to determine what version of the Apple II I have without taking it apart. So what would be the fun in that? I believe all I've got to do is run a simple command at the command line, and boom, I know. But how fun would that be? It wouldn't be. It would be very boring. How to install. Dealer installation instructions. Let's see if it even tells me if it's supported in my. It doesn't tell you whether it's supported or not. Here we go. Logic board without expansion connector or logic board with expansion. So let's see what that does. Determine compatibility. Remove the logic board from the computer. Compare the logic board with figures 1 and 2. Oh my god. Ha! If you have the earlier version of the logic board, you have to replace it, and it actually tells you how, or why, or it tells you to replace the logic board. Oh my god. I know this connector was on one of the Apple II boards I had. Here's what's sad about that. One of those boards is gone. One of those boards no longer exists. Here's the expansion board. Let's see what we got. Now, this has 256 kilobytes built in with the ability to add more as needed. So we can bring it up to 1.5 megabytes. If I happen to say gigabytes and not kilobytes, you know what the fuck I mean. Leave it out of the comments. Seriously, guys. There's no need to waste comments based on that. You know what I mean. If I slip, I don't want to hear it. It's late. I've had a very busy day at work. Give me a fucking break. For those of you who don't make comments like that, thank you. Duly noted and appreciated. Alright. Yeah, I'm an asshole today. Okay, so what we got to do is I'm going to take the back off. So I know for a fact that one of my boards had the connector, and I don't know if it's the one I put into here or if it's the one that I actually took one of the boards and I salvaged it for some connectors I needed for another machine, and I'm going to start regretting that in a few minutes. Yeah. Yeah, I needed a connector that I couldn't find anywhere. I went through Mauser, I went everywhere, and it was for, what the hell was it for? I think it was for the 2GS. And I couldn't find a connector anywhere that was exactly the same as the one that I needed. And I ended up pulling it off of one of my extra 2C boards. And yeah, I mean, I kind of regret it, but I don't. We all do things that we aren't always proud of. That's one of those things. So right now I'm just unscrewing the case, and I've got the camera running, and I'm babbling on and on. Those of you who watch my channel regularly are used to that. I take it all in stride. So thank you for that. Thank you. Yeah. I honestly believe the board that wound up in this machine is the older version, which doesn't have the connector. Ain't that a peach? That means I can't upgrade it, or I won't be able to. The screws in the middle, by the way, those are for the floppy drive. They can stay put. We're not pulling the floppy drive out at this stage. No need to. So let me move the camera here. So these 4 screws in the middle, you can leave those alone. They just hold the floppy drive, and you don't want that falling out of the case when you're cracking it open. Believe me. I still have the extra floppy drive, and I've got the extra power supply and a few other odds and ends, but I'm not sure if I still have that other board. I mean, if I use the right board or not. But like I said, we will find out how stupid BBISHOPPCM really is. Yeah, he's not very smart. Most of you picked up on that. Over the years, my loyal viewers know that I tend to do things that are stupid and tend to cause regret later on. Like, why did I throw that away? Or why did I do that? Why do I do half the things I do? I don't know. Alright. This case is a bit tricky to crack open without breaking it. There's a few catches. I think there's one in the front here. And if I remember, you have to take it apart from the front first. Let me do that real quick. For those of you who need a refresher, this is what a 2C looks like on the inside. You can see that, while Apple went to great lengths to build a portable Apple IIe, they did not use one of the many compact floppy drives available at the time. In fact, Apple continued to use the same old single-sided floppy drive for the Apple II well past its prime. This computer was built at a time when everybody else was using double-sided floppy drives, but not Apple, and they were also using servo-driven, direct-driven floppy drives, whereas this sucker is a belt-driven drive. So even in the 1980s, Apple was using obsolete technology. Interesting, huh? I think so. And now we're going to see if I made the biggest blunder of my life. Ooh, sweet. Sweet, 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 sweet. Okay, we're good. We're good. We can do this. All right. Sometimes things work out. I also have a spare keyboard if I need it. All right. This is the RAM expansion port. So what we need to do is we need to install the standoffs. And there are some specific instructions, actually. Let's take a look here. This is a brand new dealer kit. We got lucky. I can't thank you enough, Aldo Hernandez. You're the man. You're the man. This is so cool. So it's got the test procedures in here. So I've got to put a standoff, 4 standoffs here. And I don't know why it came with 2 rubber bumpers. We got to figure that out. Install standoffs. Why are there bumpers? They're in that box and I'm not sure why. Let's see. Rubber feet. Here we go. Place the foot on the solder bottom side of the keyboard, 1/2 inch from the side of the space bar. Okay. So what it wants me to do is to put them there. Oh, that's to prevent any pressure from... Got it. Okay. It's surreal, actually. I'm installing an unused memory kit that is exactly the same age I am. When this kit was manufactured, when this computer was manufactured, I was either just born or in the process of being born, or something to that effect. Actually, no. The 2C, by the way, or the 2C that I have here is not from 1984. It's probably from 85 or possibly even 86. Now, this 2C is a mutt. For those of you who didn't watch the original footage of this project, the one that I ended up buying had a cracked case. The lower case had a major crack in it. So what I ended up doing was I took the lower case from the other 2 that I had, and so I ended up installing it in the case from the other 2, and rest is history. Now this one never got retrobrighted, and that was for a damn good reason. I didn't retrobrite this one because I wasn't entirely pleased with the results on the 2GS. I feel that the process it needs a more controlled environment, okay? It worked. I mean, the 2GS is still looking pretty sweet. I mean, it's white as a ghost. But the problem is the problem is, hold on, it's not as even as I had hoped, and it's actually starting to, I mean, it's going to revert to its yellowed appearance. I mean, that will happen, but it's not. I don't want to do it to this machine. I just can't do that. Check this out. Oh, I thought that was, yeah, it is a card edge connector. It's got a ground pin, but that's it. Why? That must be part of the programming process. There are no pins on it, just ground. This is this is probably the same card they used on the Apple II GS. I mean, I'm sorry, the 2E. But how the hell am I going to plug in the keyboard? Let's see here. I can tell you why I think this still exists, why this kit is still around and never was used. I believe that it was purchased by somebody who had a 2C. They bought it, they brought it home, they turned out to have an older motherboard, and they never bothered to return it. Maybe, I don't know. Just a theory. Or it could be from a dealer that just never sold it. I mean, I've bought new old stock parts before from old Apple dealers. My PowerBook 170 rebuild project was made possible by some new old stock case pieces, case sections. So that's that. So this just plugs into here. Make sure we get it lined up with the standoffs. Okay. There we go. Almost there. Hold on, I'm going to have to... It took a little bit of strength and some pressure, but I was able to get this sucker snapped into place, no problem. Okay. So now we need to put those little rubber bumpers. It says... ½ inch from the side of the space bar. We're going to have to eyeball that. So here we go. Alright, I'm gonna give that a shot. I can't believe this is happening. I never thought I would ever find a RAM expansion for this machine. I really never, ever thought that would ever happen. But through the magic of YouTube, getting different people together who collect vintage equipment, it was made possible. And through the generosity of people like you. Now, this rubber bumper, and the other one as well, there isn't much adhesive left on these. In fact, there's pretty much no adhesive left on them. So I'm going to have to look around the house and see if I can't find any that's still... Well, there is a solution, actually. Alright, this is what I got. And I think these are going to be too tall. Yeah. Okay, I don't have any of these rubber ones left. I got to restock. I usually keep quite a collection of bumpers and stoppers. But it just so happens that at the moment I am depleted. So we're going to have to use a little bit of this super glue. Now this, some of you are thinking, and I know what you're thinking, I read my comments too. You idiot, you asshole, I mean, oh my god, you guys, not the good ones, there's some good viewers. A lot of viewers are just nasty. They take every little thing I say or do, and they analyze it. And they put it through their little mind computer, right? And they're like, They find things that are wrong. It's like a hobby of theirs. It's like they're just sitting there on their little easy chair or whatever, and they're always looking for things to nail me on. I use the wrong term. And oftentimes they say things that I later correct myself on in the video, and it's like, guys, do you even watch this shit? No, you probably don't. Anyway, so yeah, it's annoying. It really is. It sucks, but that's okay. I can live. I can deal. This glue isn't going to harm the board at all. I've done this before. I have never had a problem with this super glue. It will eat plastic. That's what it does. That's how super glue works. So, yes, if you use super glue on plastics, it'll melt and discolor it. That's what it does. That's how it works. It's like acetone. Now, this stuff, I find it doesn't cause as much harm to components as other glues. But this is my best estimation of where these are supposed to be positioned. So let's just hope I'm right. On a side note, while that's curing, I'm gonna let that cure for a little while. I don't want any problems here. I want it to work. Now, as a side note, if I have to pull the motherboard out for any reason, and this is actually true anytime you find a card that is mounted this way, and in the old days this was very common. These standoffs right here were used on just about everything at one point, and you just gently squeeze them with needle nose pliers. Gently squeeze them and pull like that. Just gently pull. They always come undone. These were especially difficult to press in place, I think because the nylon is so old. It's probably becoming brittle. And yeah, I'm going to let that sit for a little bit. Let that cure. That is my best guess, or my best estimate of where the positioning should go. And that's about 1/2 inch away from the space bar, without being in the way of anything. So I'm going to go downstairs for a minute. For a second I thought I found a... This thing's getting dusty, man. I had this thing apart like 2 years ago. About 2 years ago. And I completely cleaned it. I refurbished the whole machine, actually. Now it's getting kind of dirty again. What the hell? I'll just take the air compressor to it, maybe. But yeah, back to my what we were originally talking about. This floppy drive is belt-driven. Apple used belt-driven floppy drives until 93. I'm serious. They just never changed anything in these. They did as little as possible. I mean, that's smart. I mean, it worked. You know, even the last of the 2Es, I think, still had a belt-driven floppy drive. Single-sided. It's crazy. Except for the 2GS got it got the same 800K double-sided 3.5 inch drive that all the Macs got past 1987 and 86 when the Apple Plus, Mac Plus came out. That's right, 86. And yeah, they all had that same drive after that, but the 5.25 inch drives remained single-sided, belt-driven. If you guys know otherwise, please tell me. I'd love to know it. I'd love to know. But as far as I'm concerned, all of them were basically the same. So, all right, I think that's cured enough. Let's put it back together. But yeah, it's going to be a bear. If I have to take this machine apart again for any reason, it's going to be very difficult because those standoffs were tough. All right. I've got the oven preheating. I got to make dinner. It's getting late. It really was a hell of a day, man. All right. So there we go. I'm going to take my paintbrush and I'll just blow on it. Kind of get some of the dust out of here, but it's not important right now. All right. We got all that done. We followed the instructions to the letter Q, and we're gonna put the cover on. But yeah, the 2C was, I think the 2C was Apple's way of creating an Apple II that wasn't really user customizable. The 2C and the 2C Plus were both very much, you know, hands off, don't mess with this. You know, that's what Apple really wanted with these. They didn't want people going in there and messing around. And of course that started naturally with the Macintosh and continues to this day. Then the the Macintosh 2 line came out, and they started to break their own rules. By that point, Steve Jobs was out of the picture. You'll notice a trend. Devices that were designed and released when Steve Jobs was still in the picture were pretty much closed. And I'm talking the Mac. The original Mac, actually, not the Mac 2, but the original Mac, the 2 Plus, or the 2 Plus, the 2, they were very much closed. And the Apple II line, the original Apple II line, the 2 Plus, 2E, those were all designed when Wozniak was still in power, or still had a say in things. But anything that Steve Jobs touched was designed to be, left alone. They didn't want customers rooting around with screwdrivers and knives and picks and axes. So you'll notice that as soon as Jobs came back, that all changed, like immediately changed. With the sole exception of the Power Macintosh, which was more inviting than anything. I mean, the Mac, Power Mac line, starting with the G3, was still very easy to work on. In fact, it had a built-in handle with a colorful finger loop that made it even easier to get into. And this screwdriver doesn't seem to want to fit these screws. So let's try a different one. I think this is a Phillips number 1. I was using a number 2 Phillips. There we go, that's better. So, you get my point. But as soon as Jobs came back, what did we get? We got the iMac. And Jobs wanted that iMac to be a sealed system. If you got a problem with it, you bring it to the dealer. If you want it to be, you want upgrades done, you buy a new one. Oh, and by the way, we're taking away the floppy drive. But everything he touched, with the exception of the Power Mac, and that was because they already had their customer base was already deeply invested in the Power Mac line, and they knew that if they cut off those customers and pissed them off, they would be screwed. Remember, when Jobs came back to Apple, they were very much teetering on edge. I mean, they were ready to be dissolved. I mean, the company was in serious, serious trouble. So anything that they could do to keep their pro customers happy, they did it. But what's happened since then? What has happened since Jobs came back? They've reinvented the company. They've actually turned it into a very consumer-oriented company, to the point where they don't really care much about their pro customers. They care enough to release a $3,000 Mac Pro, but in doing so, they priced it out of reach of anyone in the consumer market. But you can see where they're going with it all. It's kind of obvious. And I will say this, I don't blame them. I really don't. I mean, it's not hard to keep a consumer happy. You just have to build a machine that works and that does what it says it's going to do. And in a way, that's easier. When you're looking at pro clients, not only do they want it to work, but they want it to be expandable. They want it to be compatible. They want a little bit more out of their machines than the average consumer does. Okay, so you saw it in real time. That's how it's done. Let's see if it turns on. And do I have anything in there? No, it's empty. All right, well, it turns on. We just need to get it to a command prompt. And we're going to type in a few things. So this is going to run our test. We should have 384 terabytes of RAM. Are you listening? Just testing. Just testing. Now, we should have 384 kilobytes of RAM when it's all done. So what we've got to do, all right, so we know the 128 is likely good. Affix the memory ID sticker to the 2E case between the open Apple and accent mark. So to do this dealer proper, well, let's test it first. All right, to test it, we're going to do this. Ready? Control reset, call -151. And I think there's a space there. Okay. Enter C40AG. Press return. Here we go. This is it. Card size 256 megabytes. See, I'm just testing. Kilobytes. It will take 45 seconds. It's going to take its sweet ass time, and it's going to test every chip on that card. A card, by the way, that has never been installed in 32 years. Well, more like, is there a copyright date in here? That'll give us an exact. Oh, card passed. So it's running past number 2 now. I don't see a copyright date in here. But we're good. The card worked. We can now mark the machine with the memory size sticker that was included. It's 384K. Look at that. I don't think that I will be ever upgrading it beyond this point. So, but I'm going to keep the stickers anyway. I'm going to do this with 2 hands so I get it right. Okay. I know the case is clean. I've already taken care of all that. Look at this. You want to get it straight. If it doesn't stick, it doesn't stick. Again, this is a 32-year-old label. There we go. Look, oh, it's not sticking. And I'm not going to put glue on my case, but yeah, it's nice thought though. Yeah, unfortunately the sticker's no damn good, but hey, everything's good. Still running the RAM test. All right. Hope you've enjoyed this video. It was fun to make. It really was. And thanks again for, I almost called you Aldo Nova. If you know who Aldo Nova is, it's a rock band from... Hey! Let me try one more thing. It worked. My idea was to clean the case with alcohol. I just thought of that. I'm like, wait a minute. I cleaned this machine with Armor All. So of course it's not going to stay. Idiot. Anyway. So, again, thank you again, Aldo Fernandez. And we now have a 384K 2C.